This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The points table makes it feel a little bit like old times here in the PRL. Modoff leads with Eisler chasing, but that's not the entire story. Abner Acosta is still quite fast, but it was more unfortunate contact between himself and Garrido that cost the Puerto Rican a chance at the win. Imola certainly won't be expected to be much safer in terms of contact between cars. Its notoriously narrow pavement and finicky chicanes tend to see some flared tempers. Hopefully, our drivers are able to avoid the pitfalls as we get ready to watch round 3 of the PRL GTE Sportscar Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Young. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Imola, despite the layout changes and despite the reputation for being difficult for overtakes, still holds a high place in most racers' pantheon of legendary tracks. To see exactly what it's like from their perspective, let's head down to our track guide. All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC Ford GT, so let's do a lap around Imola. The run down to Tamburello provides one of the best opportunities to overtake, but you gotta watch out for the braking because of the way the track jinks to the left. Also, keep in mind that this chicane has 3 apexes, and even though the last one is flat out, you don't want to pinch yourself too shallow entering it. Then there's a short burst to Villeneuve. Passes are a lot trickier here because the first half is rather quick. It's not uncommon to see drivers wind up in the gravel to the left because they carry too much speed. After that, there's almost no time before Tosa, but you do still see sneak attacks that are actually successful at this hairpin. The important part will be squaring it off for the best launch up the hill. Carrying momentum is important with how steep of a climb it is up to Piratella. Bring it across the track at the blind crest and then get on the binders. This left-hander is surprisingly tricky to get the car down to the apex, and every car I've ever driven here has experienced bad understeer. Then you'll switch sides yet again and line up for Aqua Minerale. This is one of the toughest corners on the track if you ask me. You're braking and turning on the first half and then have to be ultra careful not to go wide at the exit of the second half. Once again, we climb out of the valley and head towards another good chance for a pass, the Alta Chicane. The big thing here is you don't want to be too wide because it's narrow and the curbs are very tall. You're bound to see a few altercations throughout the day at this part. Finally, we head back downhill one last time. The run to Ravazza involves a curved entry, but what really deceives drivers is the drop in elevation under braking. It's stupid easy to outbrake yourself, and this is where I've seen the most locked up wheels during the lap. The second apex also plays a critical role because of the exit onto the front stretch. It's the longest acceleration zone of the track, so you really don't want to leave yourself vulnerable. The rest of the lap might be follow the leader, but this is where the side-by-side action really erupts. However, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Imola. Behind the scenes, we were talking amongst ourselves even about just how tough this track can be. Adam, it's going to put on a challenge today for these drivers, I think.
It is, and it's lots of format and layout changes here over the years. But what we got here today is the 17-turn layout, the modern layout, Grand Prix course, 3.05 miles or almost 5 kilometers out there. And it's a tough one. I mean, all the way, from right off the line, heading into Bronte Tamburello, I think about Bronte Alta. It always comes to mind as far as the new chicanes, and it's a tough place to pass. It's a tough place to race, but famous nonetheless. And I think these PRL guys are going to put on a show.
I have no doubt about that, and they always do for their sponsors, which today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services From completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events, they're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at SIMMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products create an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series will get a ButtKicker Game or 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. So let's glance at those championships. We've got one round on the board, starting with the drivers, of course. As I mentioned, Modov taking victory up at the front, leads Christian Eisler by about 4 points. Pfeffer, Acosta, and Hortal round out the top 5. So Acosta, despite having that lap 1 incident last race, did climb his way back forward pretty darn well. So he's not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. What about the team's championship here, Adam? How's that sitting?
Yeah, let's go pull that up after round 1. It's still, of course, tight as you'd expect it. Punto CL Racing Blue, 58 points, 8 points behind them. GTR SimSport, RSR Esport, only 1 point behind them. But already with a little bit of ground to gain is going to be Racer Motors and SRT Esport Blue. So they need a little bit of work. But I give you an idea with some of those front runners as far as what teams they're on, at least in the early parts of the point standing still. But long way to go, so this could still get shaken up quite a bit.
Absolutely. And, well, let's see if today shakes it up. Let's look at the event that we're about to witness. We're in round 3 out of 10. I know we just said we only had one round with points so far. Sadly, the first race was canceled in the end. So that was essentially just a non-points event. They have 4 different makes of cars that they can race in these GTE class vehicles. And the race distance is 60 minutes. It is open setup on all 4 cars, so they can tweak them to their liking, but they've limited the fuel, so expect 1 stop for fuel during this race. They have an incident cap at 20 out here. You will get disqualified if you hit that incident cap immediately, so there's no penalty to it in this series. It's just you are gone. And there you see the bonus points that they can rack up if they race well today. Those could be critical, depending on how this season goes and how close things stay. Once again, you're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. It's very easy to do so. All you got to do is click the big red button that says subscribe. It's just below this video right here on YouTube. Click it. You won't miss a moment here on IESN. Modov leads the way in the qualifying, but he's got some company with him. Adam, it seems like Garrido's luck has run out with the stewards. They finally give him a 10-point penalty in the championship, but it's not slowing him down out on track.
No, he was actually on the provisional pole there for a while until Modov kicked him off. Modov kicked him off in a big way, too, by the way. Over 0.3 of a second was the differential there between Garrido and Modov. Right now, we got Jay Steffi out there trying to see what he's able to put down. So far, trying to find him on my board here, sitting in about 25th with a 39.9. And once again, of course, a tight competitive field for the most part, especially in the top 10 of this race as far as who's setting good times and everything else. So most of these guys, with the exception of Modov, within a second of each other at the top part of the field.
Yeah, we're only waiting on one driver to put a time in, Justin Rame. Christopher Pfeffer also didn't have a time up until his last lap, which he just completed. And looks like he actually spun just now, so Pfeffer's going to have to take it back to the pits here in the final 5 minutes to try and go a little bit quicker. Right on board with Eisler right now, second in the points. This lap a little bit quicker, and that takes him up to 5th. That's a good sign for the 727.
Yeah, real good sign. Eisler, he's one of those guys I expect to be fast here. He was fast last time out. Just always tries to find his way there at the end of the race. Still got to get through a couple of the roadblocks that you're going to run into here for today, though, in order to set a good time. And now we got Fredez on screen and see what he can do here today. now James LeBlond.
Yep, LeBlond just getting in there. It looks like he's 24th for the moment. The 007 car does have a little work to do at a 39.4 for his quickest lap. It's 2.5 tenths to get up to Chase Mundy, who is the next driver up. Cal Quinn, who we watch come across, sitting in 8th in the 666. What kind of time is this going to be? Not quicker than his 37.8s. In fact, he was 200ths off of improving there. So is at least looking consistent on being able to reach those quick times. Mode off on screen. Let's see what this one puts down for him. Looks like an out lap, as that was a 2:05. So this should be a flyer. He'll have enough time for at least 2 more if he stays out there.
Yeah, and see what noticing a lot of these guys kind of just driving slow, especially on their out laps, kind of taking their time. Wondering if they're getting some tires warmed up here.
Acosta just goes up to the front row and displaces the 317. So Acosta's trying to take it back to Modoff. We talked to Carl at the end of last race and even discussed how he saw the competition that Abner was giving everybody and decided it was time to try and bring the fight back to him. So as we see Hortal, who's well up in the points, unfortunately not well up on speed today. He's going to abandon that lap.
That is way down from where I expected him to be, 21st position. If Justin Ream, if he can get some of his connection issues that it seems like he's got going on here tonight figured out, we'll start 38 cars. Otherwise, we're going to start 37. So large field out there. Large field means lots of stuff can happen. Maybe you can gain some spots like that, but at the same time, that also means the higher chances of you getting involved in something.
Always the case as we watch Sean Duhamel. Looks like another slow lap for him. I think he was also on an out lap. A lot of drivers are trying to get what they can out of these dying stages of the qualifying, but not seeing a whole lot of improvement, if I'm honest. Very few people going green out here. Checking to see, and should mention that it's pretty good temperatures too. It's ideal conditions at 75 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface, so should be pretty sticky. Rodriguez gets a non-lap. In fact, he's only had 1 lap, has Kenny, that's counted so far. He's really got to work on trying to keep it within the limits.
Yeah, he's and this is a tough place to put it on the limits too. I mean, your off tracks aren't as tight as, say, like Spa or Coda or something like that, but they'll still bite you. And then you also got some of that turf or the grass or even the paints. There's lots of places where things can go wrong for you if you push it too hard.
And chicanes. Chicanes are always tough trying to keep it on track. And as we see if Acosta can take another quick one, can he find himself? No, looks like he also had an off track somewhere along the line. Modoff stays on the pole. He's got about 1.5 tenths over everybody. Lowendick, who runs in 17th, his latest lap was an out lap.
No, I was just doing some looking, Joe, because I like to look at things like this. In our standard sim time here tonight, we're hitting 6:30. We're going to be running an hour-long race. And of course, it'll be just a little bit before they get going here. But right about the time the checkered flag falls on this thing will be about the time that we have sunset. So the track will be getting progressively darker and progressively cooler as we go through the race.
Kenny Rodriguez still trying to improve. 2:09 lap is really slow for him, honestly. So let's see what this one is. That's more representative. A 140.1. That gets him up to 32nd on the grid. Still has a lot of places that he can maybe try and get, but at least he's got a better one on the board. I'm so surprised to see Pfeffer as far down as he is here.
Yeah, Pfeffer is really far down. Bring him up, and it's like I'm having to try to scroll to find him.
He's sitting in 10th, and that last lap was not an improvement as the checkered flag comes out. I think Pfeffer was able to start that last one, so Acosta's going to take his final lap. Is this the pole? No, it's not. He doesn't improve. Up next, looks like Jason Ray going to be the next driver. He's down in 22nd. And then he'll be followed by Duhamel as well as Elder. See if all three of them elect to finish this lap, though. The pit entry relatively early, so should see who's going to try it. Ooh, Ray with a good lap, 38.7. But it looks like it doesn't gain him a position, sadly.
Yeah, and that's still, back in the back half of this field tonight. So that's not exactly where he wanted to be. He was hoping to get a little bit more improvement out of it. But still, improvement's improvement. Try to carry that momentum into the race.
Modoff abandoned his lap since he's still on the pole, and it doesn't look like any of the quick drivers are out there right now. Ken Huber is going to be the next to cross the line. He's in 14th. Not a driver we typically get to talk about a lot here. Let's see what he can do. He's kind of at the upper ends of the mid-pack in this 37-car field that we expect to see today. So what's the number 30 got? Well, nothing, apparently. He must have had an off track somewhere.
Yeah, I think that'll mean that we've got Pfeffer, if he didn't abandon his lap here. It looks like he did.
Yep, he's done. So everybody is off track. Qualifying is over. Let's go through your starting order here for round 3. Carl Modoff with another pole is going to get that bonus point with Abner Acosta flanking him to the outside. Not good news for Abner is that Diego is still near him at the start here. Garrido will be starting in 3rd. Paulo Munoz will be 4th with Christian Eisler in the 5th position. Anthony Pisano will be P6 with Tyler DeZube starting in 7th. To his outside, Ignacio Fredes starts in 8th. However, Horatio Calquin will be P9. And as we mentioned, Christopher Pfeffer seeming to lack a little bit of speed this season, starts 10th.
Yeah, going into row 6 in 11th position, we'll find Eduardo Vilala Gach, then Juan Marc Tremblay, Caleb John Lavender will be starting 13th, Ken Huber in 14th, David Dino will be in 15th position, Leif Peterson 16th, Ted Lewindick will be in 17th, and alongside him will be Sean Romig. Brett Thurman will be in row 10, and alongside him will be William Janssen.
We'll see if Ignacio Portal has a quicker race speed than his qualifying speed because he starts 21st. Jason Ray will be next in 22nd. Jorge Villegas will be in 23rd. Then it's Chase Mundy, who did wind up out qualifying James LeBlanc. They're 24th and 25th respectively. Duhamel starts 26th, and Jeff Carollo 27th. Jay Steffi will start P28th. Then he's got Robert Eldert behind him in 29th. Jose Malbron starts 30th.
All right, 31st position will be James Hebb. That's going to be in row 16. Alongside him, Kenny Rodriguez, Joey Trungale, 33rd. Donald Olson, share row 17. Row 18 is going to go to Spencer Semquich in 35th, and Andres Espinoza in 36th. Gary Schilling will be in 37th, and Justin Ream will be in 38th, and he is on the grid. So it looks like we're going to start 38 cars here today.
Pretty big field for this track, even though the lap times aren't terribly short. I wonder if we'll see traffic become an issue, especially trying to lap slower cars through some of the twistier bits around this track. You can see just about have everybody lined up behind the pace car, including Modoff there up at the front in the Ford. Going to be Ford versus BMW today up there. If Modoff and Acosta stay up at the top, trying to fight for that win. Just waiting at this point on Joey Trungale to make his way out to the track, and then we'll get this short pace lap started here today. We keep talking about the difficulties of overtaking Adam. I wonder if that's going to make pit strategy ever more critical during this race.
It will. I mean, there's going to be a lot of cases too that if you get stuck behind somebody and you're in the pit window to make it the rest of the way, it opens up the whole pass them on pit road scenario that we sometimes talk about. So, come on in, take the stop now, and then just beat them on your outlap and your in-lap and your outlap, and try to get around them like that, because it is going to get tight. And you could actually see quite a bit of action here on the first lap as well. And Imola is also one of those places too that if you do find yourself off track and in an incident, there's lots of places where you're not going to hit something soft, so it could ruin your day very quickly.
Let's see who manages to make it to the checkered flag. Modoff waiting patiently as the Porsche pace car now peels in. He's keeping them stacked up. We've seen situations, though, where drivers run into one another in the back. It looks clean right now as Modoff gets the green flag. He is off and away here for round 3 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Already, Garrido's managed to slot into second ahead of Acosta. Does Abner try and fight him back down into Tamburello? This can sometimes be a place where drivers trip over one another. So far, so good as behind them. Paulo Munoz goes off track, and he's going to have a cut course penalty. That's going to hurt all the more as he gets back on without incident. Behind them, it's good so far. Not seeing anybody get into one another, so I think we got a clean start.
Yeah, Joey Trungale elected to start from pit road, so he's just now getting on the track. But Carl Modoff, man, what a start that he got. Great hole shot out of the grid. Garrido was able to kind of slot in there behind him, and that allowed him to get past Acosta as well. So up at the front right now, Ford, Ferrari, BMW.
Ratio Cal Quinn moving himself up to 6th now. He started 9th, just made an overtake up into Piratella, past to Zube. So obviously he is on charge, trying to take advantage of these closer moments here in the early laps. In fact, Zube looks like he's going to be slow again and might be overtaken up into Alta. Christopher Pfeffer trying to improve on his starting position, but he has to pull out of it now as they swing through the chicane.
Yeah, already seen some guys maybe getting a little bit upset, trying to blink lights at one another and all that kind of stuff. Never really agreed with any of that, but that's what they're doing out there. While Carl Modoff, Garrido, and Acosta still lead. I did see a moment, though, that Hertal, we talked about him being kind of a little bit on the slower side, at least in qualifying, and see what kind of race pace he could put down. And, well, he's already had a little bit of an incident with Villegas. We got into the back of him just a minute ago. They both got away from it, but that just kind of goes to show that tempers could start to flare here, and this could be a tinderbox ready to go at any moment.
Well, interestingly, up the front stretch, Acosta got a run on Garrido, and Garrido gave it up very quickly. So I wonder if the penalty from the stewards has maybe changed his approach a little bit. Certainly allowed that through very easily. Meanwhile, James LeBlanc, LeBlanc was on his lid. He had an incident in Tamburello with Jason Ray.
Oh, fire up the GSRC replay machine and take a look at that.
They're side by side here. Blonde was on the radio, not terribly happy with Jason, but let's see from this. I don't think LeBlanc's got much of a leg to stand on. It looked like he pinched him a bit.
Yeah, I do too. That kind of got into him. Thankfully on his lid, he did elect to take a tow. I guess it was too damaged, but still, though, that goes to show that you don't hit anything soft here because he hit the wall hard upside down.
Oof, yeah, that'll do some damage to the car. Meanwhile, we've come back to the front where Modoff leads Acosta by about 0.7 of a second. Garrido still trailing, but not holding on tightly to Abner at this point. Wonder if he figured that Abner maybe has the better pace than him and just decided to let him go so that he didn't have to fight. But whatever the case, the podium is spread apart, and they are also gapping 4th place, which currently is held by Pisano.
Oh, there was a hard accident a few minutes ago. Jeff Corallo lost the car. I want to say it was coming out of Tosa, and then just barely clipped Sean Duhamel, and Sean Duhamel went for a ride after that.
Let's take a look at the replay. Find it here. Looks like it was, was this quite a while ago?
Yeah, so Jeff Corallo's still there. Then maybe it might be further up the track just a little bit.
This is an Alta that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this might be a little too far back, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we'll skip to it. That's all right, though. So, either way, though, that's 2 cars have been on their lids here so far.
Did not expect those sort of accidents, especially in that fashion. And, Freitas, I think, just got overtaken by Munoz. This was into Alta. Let's take a look at that one. I want to say that Fredez just got off the corner slow. Let's see. Ooh, yeah, big bobble coming out of Aquaman even though it put him in a defensive line. There's just too much speed from the 05, and that gives him 9th place.
Yeah, and of course, Fredez really didn't push the issue too much there, trying to retain that position. Still a long race to go here. Only not even just past 5 minutes, in fact, into an hour-long race. So no use in fighting too hard for anything at this point.
Had a big mistake from Donald Olson back in 31st and lost a bunch of positions. This tells you just how costly mistakes can be around here. He lost, I think, about 4 spots in the process. Meanwhile, yeah, there we go. There's Donald Olson on screen now. You can see he's in the thick of the bunch. That's Malbron, Carollo, and Simkovic in front of him. See if he can recover that back. Oh, he's still looking a little bit shaky through Villeneuve. A little sloppy of a line. Oh, we had a problem with Pfeffer. Apologies for jumping us around a little bit here, but one of our front runners loses multiple positions. Pfeffer and Aquaman goes all the way off the course.
Yeah, he just kind of put a wheel off and just kind of, lost traction going to the corner there and just kind of rode it to the outside, gave up the positions. Didn't want to ruin anybody's race by, complicating things there, but still though, those will be a number of spots. Like if it's one position, it's okay. If it's a number of spots like that, that's gonna be hard to get back. And Joe, one thing I'm starting to notice here on a number of vehicles, and it's pretty common here at Imola, and eventually will start to affect the cars here, is front end damage from the curbs. So starting to see some, little tweaked up front ends.
So watch the battle for 4th here. It's Pisano leading Eisler, and Eisler's getting very, very close. Pisano actually started behind Eisler on the grid, so I wonder if we've got Christian being held up a little bit here. Look at the Iceman now as they come up and over the hill into Piratella. Really get a sense of how narrow this track is as we ride on board, and also the walls in this section here. This is in a park as well, Adam. You talk about how close the walls are. I have to imagine that there's got to be some limitations on what they can do with the trees. Probably is a reason why we've got such close walls.
Yeah, especially in Europe. So that's with all the modifications to the layout and everything else that's gone on through here through the years, that's you think that maybe they could have pushed those out a little bit. So there's probably some laws or something against, but Italian law also is complicated. So I just don't know.
Yeah, we'll see if any of our audience are familiar with what's going on over there in terms of that. But as they come onto the front stretch, we've jumped a little bit farther back. This is the battle for 13th that we're watching. Dino up at the front of it, being chased by Huber and Lowendick. Then they've got a few more a little bit farther back. Thurman, Romig in there. Just a whole bunch of them all plugged up. Ooh, I think Huber's got to run. Oh, but he's going to back out of it by the time they get to Tamburello. That actually puts Lowendick a little bit off under braking, not expecting Huber to back up as much as he did. It's another good run, but he doesn't have enough power to get side by side by the time they hit Villeneuve. We ride on board with Lowendick, watching these two yellow machines duke it out. Ooh, this is looking very good for Huber now. He's going to have the inside. He's gotten a nose in on Duino. Up into Piratella. He sends it in deep, over under possibly for Duino, though. Nope, it's just not there. So Huber, with brave stuff on the brakes, gets him 13th.
I thought for a second there might have been a little bit of contact. That's how you pull off a pass here at Imola, guys. That's great.
Excellent stuff there from the number 30. But now he's got to try and run away. Going back to fourth, we were talking about Pisano and Eisler. They're going to come on the front stretch off of Ravazza once more. One of the most critical corners on the track, and Pisano goes a little bit wide. Eisler is going to be right underneath him in that Ferrari. Let's see if the slipstream will be enough for him to attempt to pass down into Tamburello as we ride on the gearbox of Anthony Pisano. The track weaves back and forth. That can be tough to try and pick a line, and in fact, he is going to be able to defend to the inside. Eisler, though close, isn't quite there. Don't look now. That's Horatio Calquin, you see, the third car in line. Not that far back.
Yeah, that's fourth, fifth, and sixth right there. And they're pretty close. They're about as close as, maybe even a little bit closer than what our leaders are, going from first to third. But the leaders aren't going to be making any moves. I'd say Calquin right now, if he can keep some momentum here going, and these guys get to battle, and he'll be right there. We'll have a three-car battle for fourth.
Yeah, he's probably cheering them on from back there at this point to start tangling up a little bit as they come out of Acqua Minerale, steep up the hill. Back in 13th, it's still pretty close. Although Huber is pulling away a little bit, so I think he's got that under control. Dino still holding up those behind him. Lowendick is now seeing if he could repeat the feat that we saw from Ken Huber. And I'm sure Brett Thurman would like to see that happen because maybe he could take advantage if a hole opens up. It's Romig as well in the Ford GT, the number 71. Back there, getting awful close. Lowendick, oh, and I think this could be good, but Lowendick almost putting it in the dirt there coming off the corner, and I think that's going to hurt his exit speed.
Yeah, and that's not what you want to do in a pack. If you're not careful, you get swallowed up.
Thankfully, nobody really got a good run on him this time, so he got away with it, but I'm sure he was expecting a little bit better off the final turn. Back and starting another lap. We are only 13 minutes into this race, so it's very early stages, but we're definitely not in the pit window. We mentioned the leaders a little bit earlier. There really hasn't been a whole lot going on. Modoff is stretching away, and Abner Acosta is about 1.2 seconds back. Garrido's been keeping him honest, 3/4 of a second behind. And otherwise, they've really dropped the rest of the field. Pisano is a whole 5 seconds away from the podium.
Yeah, and they were a lot closer the last time by. Modoff had a lead, put about a half second additional on Modoff that last time by. It'd be interesting to see what the times look like here, because at least right now, Acosta, at least eyeballing it, looks to maybe have gained a little bit on this lap. But I think you're right. I think right now Garrido is the one that's trying to keep these guys maybe a little bit closer to what they are, which makes you wonder what Garrido has as far as his car here today. Can he get up there contend for the lead?
This is one of the more calm races we've seen from him at this point, but then he hasn't really been in attacking position since he got overtaken by Acosta for that second place. We watch them work out of Tamburello. Keeping an eye on fourth, and it looks like Eisler's fallen back a tenth or two from Pisano. So whatever Anthony's doing, he's managing to find a little bit of breathing space away from the Iceman. Behind them is where it's really getting close, and Munoz actually goes a little off track. You can see all the dirt he kicked up there out of Villeneuve. And Calquin is the one in the Ferrari that you see now right underneath his rear wing and eager to try and get this spot.
Little bit off there. I know that was more like what old Fernando Alonso's doing right now at the Dakar Rally. I mean, he was way out there. He's going over the bumps in the sand.
Still, you can see the difficulty in trying to get by as Calquin, despite being that close, hasn't been able to do anything with Munoz. Just has to wait for a good opportunity, a bigger mistake potentially, a second small one when he's tucked up right underneath. They both get through Alta now. You know, one thing that we haven't talked about as well, that there's a number of places where you can get slowdown penalties here too, and that has bitten drivers over the years.
Yeah, you got to be careful about that. That's as close as some of these packs are, that'll cost you a few positions in some cases. So you definitely don't want to do that. Of course, being off-road anyway might cost you a bit. In fact, speaking of which, looking at Sean Duhamel, looks like he went off there. Of course, he's getting back on the track after his incident.
On screen, though,
I think he was just getting out of the way.
there's a battle for 6, and I thought Cal Quinn had it. He was fully alongside Munoz and then lifted since he didn't have the inside coming into Tamburello. So not seeing some extremely brave moves from Cal Quinn at this moment as we hop on board with him. I guess he just did not feel confident about trying to risk it heading on the longer way around into the first chicane.
So I'm looking at in the leaders here, Joe, and I'm wondering, is Sean, if you're able to get a lap comparison guide up between Modoff and Acosta here real quick, I think you're going to see that Acosta is very slowly chipping away at Modoff's lead, and I think we might have something here in about 3 or 4 laps if he keeps up this pace.
3 out of the 5 laps, he was quicker. You're right. And these last 2/10 quicker. That's not small margins. That's actually good chunks.
And I think on this lap here that they're coming across right now, I think Modoff will end up being quicker. Yeah, by about 2/10. The catch of it though is that I'm not seeing the normal consistency that I see out of Modoff. I mean, you're seeing some of his lap times, vary between a half second to 3/4 of a second, and that's allowing Acosta to stay in this thing.
Well, the temperature hasn't changed too much. The heat's really soaked into the pavement, so it's kind of bleeding away very, very slowly, even though the sun has been going down. There you can see still 75 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface, even though we're almost to 7 p.m. virtual standard time. Let's head back down to 10th because we got Christopher Pfeffer in there, and well, his woes are not over because it looks like Eduardo Gok is still very close to him.
Yeah, actually, Pfeffer just got around Gok there.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a mistake from Eduardo. If we want to replay in Tamburello, let's take a look at that. The 45 really just handed this over on a silver platter. Looking for the 44 there, there it is. Just an unforced error. Wow, actually, it was a good thing he caught that because it was heading towards the barriers.
Yeah, that was almost the old, what I like to call the NASCAR style hospital wobble there. That would have ended his day for sure. But he's been all over the back of Pfeffer since he got around him. He's not going to give this up easily here.
In the background, if we step just a little bit farther back, Ken Huber, what a tear he's been on today. We've seen some good moves from him, and he's already caught up to Jean-Marc Tremblay. This is going to be for 12th position, and he's applying some serious pressure to this Ferrari.
Yeah, by serious, I think he might have a decent look here going in. Tamburello, he's going to back off of it, though, before they get to the chicane.
Yeah, he had a lot more speed coming up the front stretch there. So I wonder if he's got a little less wing in it, maybe.
Maybe.
Regardless.
I think that might have been also more, too, just having a good run and then just deciding not to force the issue because we're only a third of the way through the race.
Could be. He's looking a lot tighter down through Tosa. Tremblay obviously looking in his mirrors now. And we had a car around behind. That was Sean Romig. What happened in Tosa?
Oh, he had to get on the binders hard to keep out of Brett Thurman. Ended up still making a little bit of contact, but he had to lock him up and resulted in spinning himself around to avoid a larger incident.
And that Ford was stuck in the same place for a long time. And, well, Romig, actually, is he still stuck there? Yeah, Romig is still facing the wrong way right now. Now he finally goes, but he's in 32nd position.
And
If you look at the battle for 4th, ooh, this is getting awful close. Eisler looking around the outside of Pisano, but doesn't get side by side by the time they break for Tamburello. Munoz now joining the fray too. Only half a second back from the Iceman.
you got to feel like if you're Eisler, did you just give up a halfway decent chance of maybe trying to do something to get that position? Because it seems like he can get up to him. That's not that much of a problem. It's getting around him. Of course, we talked about how tough passing is here. That very well could be a situation that we've been talking about with the pit stops. Maybe Eisler might think about coming down just a touch early and maybe just trying to have a better outlap. But I might wait a little bit longer before I would consider that. Wait until you get deeper into the pit window, because if you did that right now, you're liable to come out in traffic, which, of course, will backfire on you.
As we ride on board with Munoz, you can see that he is putting some of that pressure onto Eisler enough that he went slightly defensive here up to Alta. As they come out, he stays ahead. We are within the pit window at this point, so anybody willing to risk it could stop in. I don't expect many of our leaders to take that tactic based on past experience. Oh, but well, they got lap traffic right now. That is Gary Schilling trying to pull out of the way. And that certainly held up Anthony Pisano, but not enough for Eisler to take advantage.
Yeah, just catching them in a real bad spot. Good. You know, actually, Eisler and Munoz, all three of those guys actually had to back off and keep from running into one another in that pack. But you look at Eisler, almost outbroke Pisano there going into Tamburello, but did get back out of it and actually probably cost himself some time, and he's going to be under attack from Munoz here.
This is about to get spicy because these three are excellent drivers. Now look back from Pisano. Coming out of Tosa and up the hill. Beautiful sunset back there. Excuse me, we're on Eisler's car rather, not Pisano's. Swinging it up and over through Piratella, then it comes right back down into a valley here into Aqua Minerale. And then uphill once again. There is a lot of elevation change around this track here, Adam.
There is. I mean, you go up and you go down quite a bit, and it wears on you, and it does affect the car in certain places. So it's dramatic, and that's part of what makes this place fun to race on.
I love a track with elevation change. As they come down to the last of it here on the lap, hit the bottom of the hill at Ravazza, and then it swings you onto the front stretch. Eisler's close, but I don't think he's got enough of a run. Let's give it a second here to see if this is going to allow him something. Slipstream's starting to take effect, but we've not seen very many aggressive moves from him. Still a defensive line from Pisano into the corner, and that's not going to be enough for Eisler.
It might be enough for Munoz, though. Munoz once again looking hungry there behind Eisler.
Ooh, he takes a peek coming up to Villeneuve. This is a hard place to pass. A little bit too hard for now. Oh, but that's a mistake from Eisler. Very slow. He's going to try and defend the inside, but the door is open enough that Munoz is going to get his foot through. Now can he finish it, though? They stay side by side as they climb up towards Piratella. Momentum is in favor of Eisler, but he's on the outside. Can he slam the door shut? Not quite. Still with a nose in down at the apex. Munoz sticks with it. It switches back this time. Inside is going to go to Eisler, but around the outside, Munoz deep into the corner, and he takes it away.
Yeah, don't look now. That allowed Cal Quinn to get into this fight here, too. And Dzube not too far behind them.
Gutsy stuff from Paulo Munoz to put himself up into P5 with that. So from fighting for a fourth place, Christian Eisler instead falls to sixth and has to go on defense mode with Cal Quinn rocking up right behind him. just great fighting, side-by-side racing. That is tough to try and do that around the outside into Aqua Minerale.
It is. And Director Sean Ambrose pointing our attention to another battle here. This is going back for Pfeffer actually coming in.
Yeah, he was
not a bad choice. Not a bad choice right now.
Yeah, he was being hounded by a train of cars, so he wanted to try and get away from that. And just at about halfway, maybe a little bit earlier than that, he's going to try and take a scheduled stop. In fact, I think, is this our first scheduled stop? I do see some of our drivers towards the back that have been in and out. That's Lavender and Trungale, but they've been in, yeah, that was a lot earlier. So this is our first schedule, and Espinoza going to be the second one in. Pfeffer taking his work. See if he can get this thing back out in a decent time. This actually might be a long stop. I don't believe this is a typical stop here for Pfeffer. Well, that certainly opened things up for Jean-Marc Tremblay, Ken Huber, and Ted Lowendick. Huber caught Tremblay pretty quickly, and well, now he's gotten backed up because he had stretched away from Ted a long time ago. Now Ted's brought it right back in and seeing if he could get this position away from Huber. So does Tremblay follow suit? Does he follow Pfeffer in? Pfeffer is definitely in for something being wrong because he's now been in for a whole minute.
Yeah, and then already seeing guys, I don't even really see him in the car right now.
Oh, Huber's coming in. So Huber abandons that. And that is going to leave that group down to 3 cars. Instead, it was 5 just 2 laps ago. And they're starting to fall away. Take that back. It's actually 4 still because Brett Thurman is in there. Also on board with Peterson, who's found his way down to pit lane.
Seeing guys take tires in some cases here today, too.
Kind of surprises me. I guess if it doesn't cost them extra time, might as well.
And this battle, the entire time we're talking about pit stops, has still just been raging between Pisano and Munoz. Eisler and Calquin have fallen off a little bit, but these guys continue to try to go at it.
Yeah, Pisano leads the way ahead of Munoz and their teammates, by the way, as you can tell from the similar paint schemes. Huber did get back out with a regular stop, about 18 seconds. That puts him in 27th and the highest car to have pitted. Onto the front stretch. A good run will do it here from Munoz, and he's certainly pushing for it, going nearly all the way off the track in the process. Starts to reel in Pisano. Pisano going to go defensive. He's leaving the door open for now. Munoz is going to take it. He's got to the inside, and Pisano actually lifts and lets him through.
I think that was a smart choice. That, he's your teammate. You always want to try to beat your teammate, but at the same time, you're holding him up, and he had a really, really good lap there. And better for the both of you, I think, at this point to try to, just get sorted out who's faster and try now to run away from Eisler.
And Lowendick follows Huber in. So after Huber takes a stop, Ted is going to do monkey see, monkey do to see if he can stay with him. Remember, he was behind Huber. He could do the overcut potentially, but haven't really seen that be as much of a thing. He is coming back out. That was a 3-second quicker stop, though. Ted's just about to the cones. It's a long run to finish up the pit speed limiter here on pit lane. Now he's out. There's our leader on screen. Ooh, Modoff pushing. That was a scary moment to join in on him.
And that's telling you, he set his fastest lap 2 laps ago. at a 37.4. He's still very fast. It's just he's not as consistent as I'm used to seeing him be.
Well, he did say he might be a little bit rusty as he took some time away, but hasn't hampered his speed too badly. Still taking a lot of curb in places as we watch him try to keep that 1 second gap back to Acosta. Garrido has definitely fallen away. It's 5 seconds back to our third place driver. Really our closest battle up at the front for now is here for 8th. That's Dzube, we ride on board with, and Fredes just behind him. Been something of an interesting mix of the battles here, Adam. They've been sort of on and off. We get some closing in and then suddenly they'll spread apart, but it's not been lacking for action.
Oh, it certainly hasn't, and that's the fun part about what we're seeing here today is that we'll see things try to run back together and these guys get close again. But these guys here, I mean, especially with Dzube trying to run away from Fredes right now, they've been catching Calquin by quite a bit each of the last couple of laps. So I think Calquin's going to fall in these guys' clutches as well. So this very well could end up being a battle for 7th, if anything else. Both these guys faster than Calquin right now.
Yeah, and you see both of them taking it very, very hot down into Rovazza. In fact, Dzube, both apexes looking a little wide coming off the corner. Fredes is now sniffing the exhaust of the car ahead, thinking maybe he could take 8th away. He's going to be given the inside as Dzube does not cover it off, and the Ferrari manages to move ahead. I haven't mentioned it a lot, but this is a very Ferrari-dominated field right now as Dzube took a little bit of a peek, then backs out of it. Really, the only drivers that aren't Ferrari in the top 10 are 1st and 2nd. That's a Ford for Modov and a BMW for Acosta.
Yeah, not really seeing the split that we saw the last time out where, I think all the different manufacturers were very well represented up there. Ferraris definitely seem to be the way to go here today.
Fredes is taken off now that he's gotten by Dzube. He is not waiting around to see if he can run down Calquin. Still not seeing many of the front runners in. James Hebb, I think, just pitted. But that will relinquish the highest pitter spot back to Lowendick. Curious to see where Ted will come out. And also if Ted has enough fuel, because, again, he was a 15-second stock compared to Huber's 18.
And Pfeffer, by the way, has officially retired from the race. I'd be interested to know if anybody can chime in anywhere about what exactly happened to Christopher Pfeffer today. I mean, he was doing pretty well.
I don't think we saw an incident that took him out. Carollo is also out. And Espinoza has retired. And then LeBlanc is gone. Duhamel, I think, gets our Dory Award for the day. The 617 is 5 laps down and still running.
Yeah, we've seen some movers here for today. One of the movers that I saw right before he ended up getting some damage was Andres Espinoza. I think he's out of the race now because of an incident. But before that incident, he had climbed up, I believe, to about 19th or 18th place from 36. He literally climbed up half the field before things didn't go his way. So tough break for him. He was definitely getting up there.
Brett Thurman, who was behind Lowendick, has just pitted, and it's going to be close when he gets out. Lowendick has got the speed up. Thurman just past the cones, starting to accelerate away. He was a similar pit stop time to Ted, and he is going to be ahead of him. I believe that is an overtake between the two. So that'll move Thurman up to 20th, but that is still waiting on many drivers ahead to pit. Well, it does seem to be that the pit stops are deciding this race in a big way. Munoz, in the meantime, just set the fastest lap out there, the fourth place driver.
Yeah. He's been on a tear since he got past his teammate there, so good for him. That just goes to show how far some of these guys are starting to fall off.
He's about 8 seconds behind Garrido, so he's got a lot of work to do to try and get up to the podium. I see David Dino now heading in. He was another one of that pack between Thurman, Lowendick, and Huber that was fighting for spots, so this is important here for him. There you see him on screen in his pit stall, the 505, taking his service. He's done and going just as Thurman comes out of Ravazza now. And Duino, almost exactly the same pit stop time as Brett Thurman.
So that'll be interesting there. Just looking through the field here.
Thurman's catching, but he's going to come out behind him. So Duino holds his place at the front of the train that we saw before, and that will be critical for the 505, especially with how tough we've seen it is, even with this mid-pack, to try and make moves. We're down to 23 minutes left, and now we're getting some of our top drivers in. Looks like Munoz pits. Pisano does. Fredez as well.
Yeah, looking at Pisano and Munoz, kind of figured they might come in together, and not just because they're teammates, just because they're so close together on a relative time here. But man, just those last couple of laps there from Munoz is exactly what he needs to maybe try to start to separate himself out a little bit. He is away. He's got Gary Schilling there coming out with him here.
And that's not good news if Gary is in front of him, which it looks like he's going to have to be. That lap traffic is exactly what he did not want in this situation.
And you got to be careful there to not let that lap traffic coax you into a penalty there as far as exiting the pits unsafely.
Oh! And he tries to make a move past, and he's into the wall. Munoz out of Tamburello finds himself facing the wrong way. Looked like
Gary Schilling, he just kind of dropped down. It looked like he was trying to go ahead and give them the outside of the track to get by him, but at that time, Munoz had already decided that's the direction I'm going to go.
He did kind of shut the door, although I will admit, usually you don't expect people to try and get in there at that point. But that was catastrophic there for Paulo Munoz, because not only is it lost time, but now he's got a damaged car. Ugh.
Thankfully, it doesn't look too awfully damaged. But, I mean, he's now back in the clutches of Fredez here.
Meanwhile, Modoff, Acosta, and Garrido have all pitted. Cal Quinn just finding his stall, so is DeZube. Eisler is the only one to stay out. Looks like Cortal also going to be coming in. Now we're finally getting a real picture of things. Modoff returns, doesn't lose the lead to Acosta despite pitting within about a second of each other. Pitting with about a second gap when they came in, rather. Oh, Garrido's in long, though. Garrido's still in his stall, and this is more than a penalty. Is he still in the car? Yeah, it looks like he's still in there. What is going on? He's going now. It's a full minute.
Really didn't see him come in with a lot of damage. None either. I don't know what happened.
And usually I would expect there'd be more than one car that suffers that sort of damage. If it is, a case of hitting curbs too hard and getting a meatball or something to that effect. So, and nobody else seems to have really come in and got repairs like that.
Yeah, that's going to put him all the way back in with Lowendick and
yeah.
Brett Thurman back there. In fact, Lowendick actually kind of got off the track to give him room to go by.
I think that was a mistake on Ted's part, even. So
maybe
that was a little bit of luck from Garrido to at least get one spot there, but down to 14th. So there goes a good finish for Diego Garrido, and really is what would have been a deserved podium as Eisler finally pits and relinquishes the lead to Modoff. Ooh, Eisler with a very fast stop. 14 seconds. Same as Acosta, interestingly.
Now, Eisler, that might be enough, but, you know, Acosta has one additional lap, so it's got to be a case of, you know, and I always wonder sometimes, did they take enough fuel? Because I've seen so many mistakes with that. That's why I keep sometimes saying that. But I really wonder, with only a 14-second stop, did especially Acosta take enough?
Also, wasn't Pisano ahead of Eisler before, if I'm remembering correctly?
Yes.
So
yes,
Christian,
he was.
Wow. Christian turned up the wick, and that's netted him third place. Even though he had that quick stop, he's about 3 seconds ahead of Pisano. So that's not just pit stop. That is out on track and putting your foot down. The Iceman has returned. We see between Anthony and Christian. Only 2 seconds difference, although that's definitely helped. He would have been only about a second ahead of him if he had the same pit stop time. Sounds like you managed to pull up a replay, at least on your screen, of what happened to Pfeffer. What exactly went down here?
He had a little bit of contact. He kind of came down a little bit on Guac. Guac had the position going in the corner, came down a little bit on him, had a little bit of a half spin, and it was immediately after that Pfeffer parked it for the day. So don't know if that had anything to do with it. It certainly wasn't enough contact to warrant any kind of damage on the car or to affect its drivability at all. So I don't know there, Joe.
Meanwhile, as we look at the last lap between Acosta and Modoff, he has run him down big time. It was about 0.8 of a second last time through. And now Acosta with a 37.8 versus Modoff's 38.2. He is right underneath him. Also, for fans of Garrido, well, actually, he's going to get another one right now. I was going to say Garrido already got Thurman, and he just passed Dino, so he's making very short work of this train of cars that he came into.
Yeah, well, it actually took him a little while longer than I thought it'd get around Dino, but once he did, now he's got his sights set on Tremblay. I mean, he's going to find himself back into the top 10 here pretty quickly. Just look at the line difference as far as what Garrido was able to hold that down to the inside compared to what Dino and Thurman were able to do there. He's going to be up on Tremblay here in no time.
That trio behind him, though, still fighting hard to try and settle out that 12th spot. And actually, Thurman looking a little bit slow coming out of Piratella, allowing Lowendick to creep up behind, but not quite do anything with it. You know, the other thing that just occurred to me is how few Porsches we see in this series anymore. It used to be that was the car.
Yeah. In fact, how many do we have out there today? I mean,
It's just Hortal right now. He's in 16th.
Yeah.
I'm seeing 5
Olsen
of them.
is in a Porsche. Yeah, that's 5 is what I'm counting too. So yeah, there's only 5 out of a field of 38.
They've certainly dwindled. Of course, the BOP does affect some of that, the choices of drivers over time. Apparently not the desired car this season as we continue to watch this fight between Lowendick and Thurman coming down into Tamburello. Ted looking great on the brakes, but just not close enough to try and capitalize.
Yeah, and that's something too with the PRL. You can't change car manufacturers on a whim. You know, once you choose it at the start of the season, that's what you got. Even in the trucks, Where the Chevy and the Toyota are equal, you can't change manufacturers through the season.
Yeah, so they want you to stick with it. Right on board with Lowendick coming down into Ravazza. I'm also keeping half an eye on that battle for the lead, too, because Acosta's getting ever closer. In fact, actually, Acosta just took a little bit of a look down into Tamburello. I don't think it was a serious one, but I think he's trying to get himself into the mirrors of the two-time champion.
He just has not gone away this entire race. He's always been right there, and this is as close as he's been since the start now. He's been more hanging back at about that 3/4 of a second to a second and a half, distance. Now it's time to pounce. I mean, now we're in the last little bit of the race, last quarter of the race now. It's time to go.
If this race and last race are telling us anything about how this season will develop, this is looking like, Adam, it's going to be a race to see who can be the first to 3 championships here between Acosta and Modoff. Both of them two-time champions, and both clearly the class of the field, is Eisler's still 21 seconds behind. I mean, unless one of them wrecks, at this point, it's going to be one of these two winning.
Yeah, and you got two fantastic drivers. We've seen them all the time, just set the world on fire between the two of them. So now it's a chance to see what they can prove here together right now, and this is going to be a good battle here as we go to the start. And it's getting noticeably darker out there as well, Joe. So that's always going to be fun too, as we're going to watch this battle as the sun sets.
That's Kenny Rodriguez. That's a lapped car in front of them. He's running 24th. Last car on the lead lap, actually. So how many of them have found themselves overtaken by these quick 2 leaders. And he's going to lift early and let them both through. Maybe a little bit of an awkward line, unfortunately, for Acosta, but he makes do with it.
Oh, I think with what he's been able to pull off here and getting this close to Modoff the last little bit, I think that's okay to give that little bit up.
Getting back down to that group we were watching before, 3 drivers in the line, Dino, Thurman, and Lowendick. It looks like Thurman has shaken Lowendick by at least a small margin and is closing up on Thurman. The lights have come on the cars and are shining into the ever-increasing darkness here onto the front stretch. Those lights are going to fill up the mirrors of Dino. Is this going to be enough for Thurman to have a go into Tamburello? Up in front of them, that's Jean-Marc Tremblay. So he's not too far ahead. That's incentive for Thurman to really get aggressive, see if he can get up to 11th place. Right now, no opportunity presents itself, and they're going to stay in line.
By the way, Garrido has been kind of covering his recovery drive here. He has gotten in the top 10. He got around Tremblay a little bit. Now he's got his sights set on his teammate Eduardo Guac here.
Guac's making that super easy. He immediately lets him through. He knows he's faster, and he's not going to fight him even with 12 minutes left on the clock. So give Garrido 9th place, 10 seconds up to Cal Quinn. I'm not sure that one's going to happen. Oh, and Acosta's got to run. Acosta is to the outside as Modoff covers him off, coming down into Tamburello, side by side into the corner. And it looks like there's not enough grip out there, at least yet, for Acosta. He falls back. The first serious attempt we've seen, and we saw a car off track. That's James Hebb. Yeah, don't need to go back to that single car incident.
Acosta was really hoping the BMW M8 memes were true there, where the car was about 20 times the size of everybody else. If that would have been the case, it would have worked there. But still, though, I think he put Modoff on notice that if he doesn't pick up the pace, his lead's going to be in jeopardy here.
Yeah, he's brought the fight to him. And I feel like we've seen this a little bit before in the past, that some of the drivers have their setups work a little bit better towards the end than the beginning. And I wonder if that's what Acosta is experiencing. Remember, he was, about a second and a half off earlier? And this is the most pressure we've seen him apply all race long. Down to Ravazza. Acosta's a smart cookie. He knows this is the corner where he needs that corner exit. This is where he needs to be close. Can he get it, though? Can he execute? It's looking decent, but I don't think this is as good as it was last lap.
No, he didn't have as good of exit as he wanted to. He's catching up now just because of the draft, but he actually fell off on him a little bit there. If I'm Acosta, and I definitely am not the kind of person to tell Acosta how to run a road race because I'm not the best road racer myself, but I'd almost focus more on the corner entry right there. Let's back that up just a touch and try to get that run off the corner and maybe try to get that good run down the front stretch. But right there, he was just trying to focus on staying to the rear of Modoff, and I think ultimately that's what cost him some time.
He's very strong here in the first part of the lap as we watch. He's staying glued to that rear bumper of the 948. Just can't do anything around this portion as there's very few passing opportunities, especially not down here into Acqua Minerale. They're running out of time, too. We've got, what, about 7 laps left to go here?
I think we'll have less than maybe 6.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And there we see a little bit of a weakness from Abner Acosta. The Puerto Rican fell back through Acqua Minerale, gains a little bit more after that through Alta. Let's see if he takes your advice. Let's see if he backs his corner up. They are going to get some lap traffic. William Janssen, that could also be a factor in this. Wonder if maybe he could use that as a pick. Find someone to slow up Modoff just enough to get him that run he needs. Or an extra draft, as we see there.
Yeah, he was really trying to use that draft off Janssen there. Just not close enough.
You know, I mentioned earlier about Garrido probably not going to be able to climb any higher. He's got it down to 7.5 seconds on Cal Quinn, so he's hurrying. And if Cal Quinn makes a mistake, that could be it right there. That'll bring him in a whole lot quicker. Watching our 2 leaders now out of Tosa. This definitely seems to be where Acosta's car is handling the best. Just look at how close he is again. Back down into Acqua Minerale. It is 2 Titans. And it's been a while since they faced off against each other. The first championship that Abner was able to get was against Modoff, but it was after that Carl took himself a little bit of a break. This is very close. This is a lot closer this time. He's got to run.
He's going to have a good look here.
He's forcing him to the inside. Making the pass here is difficult. He's going to let him track out. He backs out of it. He stays right with it, coming off of Ravazza, and he's looking very good now. Just a car length and a half back. Coming up the front stretch, though, it doesn't look like it was a great exit there for Acosta, just when he needs to be right with him. He's going to gain as we run on board the Ford of Carl Modoff. You could see just at the last moment as they hit the brakes that Acosta's not going to stick with it.
Yeah, Modoff has already shown us earlier on in the race that he is not immune to some small mistakes. One small mistake right now is going to cost him a lead. I don't think that's not on Acosta's mind there, just trying to stay close and put pressure.
I think did Ted Lowendick just get a spot from Thurman? Yes, he did. I think we don't need to go to it. Looks like Thurman got himself a slowdown penalty and had to let him through. I know we've been giving a lot of love here to our front 2, but this is for the lead. We're down to 6 minutes to go now. Costa's got to be at least a little bit antsy in that cockpit now. He's gotten so close. He's had some opportunities, but with the time getting close to 0, he knows that he can't wait very long, and he knows he's got to do something to finish ahead of Modoff, especially after losing a lot of points to him in the first round.
And he's just right there. And it's a little bit of a better exit for Acosta that time, but still I don't think good enough here. He's got a good run. I think he's got enough to get alongside, but it's not certainly enough to clear. A Modoff immediately goes defensive.
Let's Modoff back on the racing line, and Acosta with a mistake slides in front of the lapped car of Ray, gets it woed up and gets it back on just as he actually almost comes in front of Jansen to try and hurry to get it going. That might just be the race. I think he touched a wheel in the grass under braking.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did, Joe. And just have half spin, back in, came around on him. You're supposed to be putting pressure on the other guy to make mistakes, not make one yourself.
And this is what is amazing with both these drivers, because we've seen how incredibly skilled and how consistent they can be. That's how hard they're pushing now, Adam, that we're seeing Modoff and Acosta make unusual mistakes.
Right. You know, and that fantastic race, not going to take anything away from either one of them there. Now all Modoff has to do is really just run his laps and finish this thing out. And the same with Acosta, to still finish in second. I mean, they've built up such a tremendous lead between those two that it should still be Modoff and Acosta finishing 1-2 in this thing.
Meanwhile, we've jumped back to the battle for 11th. Dino leads Tremblay, Lowendick, and Thurman. Olsen at the back of that group is a lap down, so he's not in this for a position. We wanted to get to this battle before, but we were so engrossed in the top two that we couldn't really give this screen time. Now we finally get to see. These four have been not that far apart pretty much since about halfway through this race. Love to see what they can do now that really that the pressure is on. Been snaking along this track for a while. All in a row. We did mention that, of course, Thurman lost a position recently due to his own mistake. Oh, speaking of mistakes, that was heavy into the Alta chicane from Dino. Manages to get it out the other side, but I think he lost some of that gap that he had pulled to Tremblay.
Yeah, that's not going to help him out at all here.
On to the front. Ooh. I think that Thurman's got a good run here on Lowendick. Sorry, Adam.
No, you're fine. It's exactly what I was getting ready to talk about here is that, I thought Thurman had a really good run out of that corner, and now Lowendick looked like he might try to run him down at least real low, almost into the grass, but gives him room there to get the inside look, and, well, we're going to go ahead and give that spot to Thurman.
Nicely done. Textbook out-braking maneuver into the Tamburello chicane. They go by the slow car Steffi, another lapped vehicle, just letting them all through. So nicely done, recovering to the number 69 machine to get his spot back. I think we're going to get 2 laps to go because Modoff just coming across the line now. 2 minutes left. Yeah, he should be starting the penultimate lap now. We're down to only 20 cars left on the lead lap. He's lapped almost half the field.
And his pace has just been phenomenal, and the last couple of laps since the incident there with Acosta doing the half spin, Modoff has backed off of it. I mean, he knows he doesn't want to make a mistake himself right now. So
Dino just had an issue, and he lost all those spots that he was holding down. I think this happened in Alta. This is what I mentioned earlier, where he went in too hot. And he did a second time, but this time looks like he couldn't hold it. Let's watch the replay. I think he's going to get way too much curb.
Yeah, I mean, that front end started hopping, and there was no hope that he was going to be able to keep traction down.
Sends him all the way down to 15th after he was sitting in 11th for so long. Great news for Jean-Marc Tremblay, who now finds himself in that P11 spot. Just watching that one more angle there of the incident with Dino. It's a shame to see the race end that way for him since he was running so well for much of it. Speaking of a race going well, white flag is out for Karl Modoff. Victory at Interlagos, set himself up well in the championship. And this is going to really shout it from the mountains that he has come back with a vengeance. So he starts his last lap. And we got some action back in fifth between Pisano and Fredes. This is incredibly close between these two, coming down to the white flag themselves. That's Fredes that you see behind Pisano. We ride on board with.
Fredes got a good run here.
Pisano's going to defend. Holds off the inside. Haven't seen many people be able to pull this off. They almost come together. Both of them managed to stay on the track, but just barely as Fredes gets slowed up, nearly running into the grass there. And that's going to deny him the chance at that position. Great stuff. The 948, meanwhile, on screen, up to Alta for him. The beautiful orange Italian sky is going to accent this win wonderfully here for the American. As I was saying, Modoff just looking like he is going to be a very, very tough cookie in this season. Going to wind up with a 5 to 6 second gap back to Abner Acosta when all is said and done, helped by Acosta's mistake. Win number 2 and round number 3 here for Karl Modoff comes at Imola. Acosta follows him home into second. And Christian Eisler with another good run. May have been a little ways back, and he may have had Munoz trying to chase him down at the end, but it was not enough for Paulo. Give that champagne to the 727. Paulo's off the last corner, and though Fredes did catch back up, it was too little too late. Pisano manages the top 5. Oh, and Tremblay, when we weren't looking, got passed by Lowendick. He's up to 11th now. And they've actually caught Gawk as well.
You've been on a tear the last few laps, it looks like here.
He might be able to do something. Oh, he's a little too hot into the second apex of Ravazza. Eduardo is going to be able to hold him behind and keep in that 10th position. Oh, or is he? Oh, that was sudden. Started running up on him there at the very end. Lowendick settles for 11th, but still a great race considering he started in at 17th. Last car on the lead lap is going to be Peterson, who trundles to the line. Let's take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Autodromo. Enzo e Dino Ferrari, better known to race fans as simply Imola, held round 3 in the PRL GTE Sportscar Series, and Karl Modhoff took his second win of the season over Abner Acosta, who still trailed him home despite being able to survive the first lap this time. Interesting to note, though, it was a nail-biter until we got a mistake from Acosta, so those 6 seconds don't tell the whole story. Christian Eisler managed to get on the podium again, and Paulo Munoz with a 4th today. Anthony Pisano takes 5th, just barely ahead of Ignacio Fredes. Behind him, Tyler DeZube, 7th, exactly where he started, and Horacio Calquin finishes in 8th. A mysteriously long stop for Diego Garrido sent him downwards, and despite starting on the second row, wound up 9th. His teammate was behind him in 10th, Eduardo Avila Wach.
Yeah, of course, Garrido, I think, started that recovery drive in like 16th or 17th. So able to gain some spots there at the end. Coming home in 11th, Ted Lewendick. Tremblay coming home in 12th. Brett Thurman, 13th. Ken Huber in 14th. And David Duino, all those guys locked in a great battle. Ignacio Hurtal there in 16th. And Leif Peterson ended up being the last car in the lead lap in 17th.
Everyone from there on down, as you can see, finishing a lap down, if I can get my brain to work right now, and some DNFs there at the end as well. It was a bad day for a few for sure. Not so for Karl Modhoff, who took another win, but certainly had to really push it. It seemed like with Abner not being falling victim to an incident in the first lap, he kept you honest this race.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, that was a great race. Abner had a really good pace at the end. I'd kind of get it together, and then I started overdriving. He'd run me down. We had that whole cat and mouse back and forth game. I didn't know what happened when I gained that 5-second lead at the end. It looks like he touched the grass, but that allowed me to breathe a little bit, which was nice. But yeah, great race. Lots of competition with Abner here. That's what I'm here for. So super stoked to take the win. That was awesome.
Yeah, it certainly gave us a good show at the end there. You talked about overdriving the car a little bit. We did notice a few mistakes here and there, and we kind of felt that was a little uncharacteristic for you. Do you feel a lot of pressure from Acosta in this? Do you feel like you have to drive at 110%?
Yeah, Abner's really fast. I've noticed the second half of the race, so I like to try and get a gap out early. And I had a little one, but I don't know what I did in my pit stop. I lost about 1.5 seconds there, and he got right back on me. And at that point, our pace was pretty similar, and with the draft, there's no way I was going to get away from him. Little mistakes here and there as the tires age, they get hot. It's just the throttle too much soon, the rear steps out, and it totally kills you on this track being so technical. So, it's definitely more difficult when you got that big BMW staring down your rearview mirror.
Yeah, it probably blocks the view quite a bit. Speaking of the drafts, next round, unfortunately for you, is going to be Road America. Do you see yourself having to get a little bit tricky then with that, with the draft? Maybe allow him to push the air, see if you could get a short stop, or is it going to be the same mode as here in Imola, where you just get out to the lead and try and hold it down?
Yeah, I think you always have to race with your mind during these races. Thinking the whole way through and just stay flexible. I don't think I'll really have a solid plan going in. Leading, if I can get away, great. And break the draft. If I can't and he's just drafting me, then maybe there's some things you want to look at as far as pitting early or later. But yeah, you definitely don't want to tow him around the whole race and let him save 2 seconds of fuel. So it'll be one that the strategy kind of evolves throughout the race depending on what's going on.
We'll watch out for that. Hopefully we get round 3 between you two. It's been fun to watch. Congratulations on the win. Would you like to thank anybody?
Just thank family, friends, everyone that was watching Evolution Sim Sport. That's a new pro team that I'm going to be doing Daytona with, so looking forward to that. Those guys seem like a great group of guys, really supportive and trying to do big things in iRacing. So looking forward overall to having a good year and hopefully keep clicking off these wins.
Great stuff. That was Carl Modoff, our winner here in the number 948. For a second, I thought he said a new protein. I thought maybe he had an energy drink or something. Adam Young has caught up with Abner Acosta, who himself was feeling the pressure of this battle.
Yeah, we got to get Joe off the performance-enhancing stuff here right now. Hey, overall, Abner, man, fantastic drive out there here today. Ultimately, the guy addressed the elephant in the room. Just one small mistake kept you from maybe getting another couple more shots at Carl.
Yeah, kind of disappointed with the finish, obviously, but overall it was a good finish. Motive was so fast. I was kind of impressed that I was sort of like staying with him, sort of. I think some of the lap cars kind of maybe slowed him down a little bit, and I was somehow able to stay, but yeah, disappointed. Barely touched that grass, and the car just went around. I could do nothing about that.
Yeah, that's sometimes the way that the racing gods will treat us. But I know you talked about keeping up with with Modoff there almost the entire way, and really though, you've got to feel good about how the season's starting off. You finished second both times to Carl, but at some point you keep finishing the way you are. One of these is going to go your way.
Yeah, well, actually, the first week I got punted on. I qualified first.
That's right. Yeah, with Greedo. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually very upset about that. Cause
I'm thinking of something last season. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're very good. It's been a long break for sure. So yeah, the first race qualified first. I thought I had really good pace, and then I just got punted on turn one by Diego. He kind of pulled over for me on this one. So I mean, and I guess he let me go. Once he jumped the starter. He got a good start. And got second, and I was just like, oh my god, here we go again. But I guess he saw that I was faster than him. He kind of pulled over a little bit, and then I was able to get away from him. But yeah, the season didn't start how I wanted to, so this is a better finish, I guess.
All right. Well, hey, Abner, thanks for coming in here, and we'll see you next week at Road America.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank my team, Ivana Racing, and I want to thank also Andrew Karen for helping me practice in here. And congrats to Moda from the.
That was our second place finisher, Abner Acosta. Looks like Christian didn't want to come and talk to us today. I'm sure he had a lot of intensity out there on track, so he might be tired. So we're going to close up with some thank yous. First of all, to our sponsors, Simulation Motorsports Affinity can be found at SIMMSA.net if you want to check them out. They've been sponsored now for a little bit here in the PRL, so glad to see them continue on their presence. But also to ButtKicker, who have been providing these awesome prizes here for this series. If you want to see what sort of gear that you can get for your sim rig, check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Also, thanks to iRacing for not only providing this sim, but also putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe. It's very easy to do. Just click the subscribe button. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com or check out our social media. Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is /Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is at GSRC_Gram. If you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenv.com. We've got a link in the description below. And the next race, as we mentioned, we're heading up to Wisconsin. That'll be Tuesday, January 14th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Less of a break this time, thankfully. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.